On Remembrance Day, I remember my father, who was a peacekeeper in Cyprus, my grandfather and great-grandfather, who fought beside each other in World War II, and my 3 great uncles, who lost their lives at a very young age in battle during World War I.
My grandpa left me with a responsibility. I think that's pretty clear. I think him every day. There's no question about that. But he used to tell me about a lot of people, a lot of guys that he knew very well, that he went into service with. And I think about them. This is Wheeler Graham. This was my grandpa's closest friend. And Grandpa survived and Wheeler didn't. Wheeler doesn't have any brothers or sisters. As far as I can tell, he never did. And so, yeah, I think I have a responsibility to remember him, because if I don't, I'm not sure who will. Yeah.
On Remembrance Day, I remember Master Corporal Byron Greff, my friend from high school who joined the military and was one of the last Canadians killed in Afghanistan.
On Remembrance Day, I remember my dad, Klaas Alleman, who was born in the Netherlands. He told me stories of when he was a young boy and they're shelling around his house and how the windows were breaking, and he was really scared, and how his sisters protected him. And when he went back to school and seeing some of his classmates who were no longer there, and that his house was occupied by German soldiers, and my opa, my grandpa, was taken away by German soldiers to work in a work camp.
This Remembrance Day, I remember my grandfather who served in World War II in Italy. His ship was torpedoed in November, but they were rescued and he went on to live to the age of 93. Actually, he was a cook in the army and his brother served on the front lines in Italy. Je me souviens.
On Remembrance Day, I remember my best buddy, Warrant Officer Drew Adkins. He has served 2 tours with the United Nations in the Middle East, and luckily he has safely returned. I also remember his wife, Melissa, because family members have to sacrifice as well.
On Remembrance Day, I remember and I am so grateful for the Canadian soldiers who saved my parents' lives. After the hunger winter of 1944, Canadian soldiers liberated Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and my mother remembers the soldiers picking up her and her sister and riding them through the town on their tanks. They gave my mother and my father an orange and a bar of chocolate. They had to take these home to show their parents because neither of them had ever seen them before, even though they were both 8 years old.
On Remembrance Day, the person I always think about is my Grandpa Bud. He received a letter that his father wasn't doing well, and as he returned to Alberta from serving 4 years of the war, he wrote a poem, I would argue it probably is. I'd like to read that poem to you today that he wrote in some point of those 40 days as he returned home from war. To remember me, give my eye to the man who has never seen a sunrise, a baby's face, or the love in the eyes of a woman. Give my heart to a person whose own heart has caused nothing but endless days of pain. Give my blood to a teenager who was pulled from the wreckage so that he might live to see his children play. Take my bones, every muscle, every fiber and nerve in my body, and find a way to make a crippled child walk. And so reading that poem every Remembrance Day really gives me an idea of clearly what my grandfather learned when he was at war.
I remember my grandfather, Eldon Babcock, who fought for our freedom in World War II.
I remember my Pepe, my grandfather. What I remember most about Remembrance Day is my grandfather coming to my school in his full uniform during the Remembrance Day ceremony. Because he was my guest, I was chosen to do a solo song specifically for him. I remember him being so proud when I got up there and I sang to him. He teared up and everything else. Because of this, Remembrance Day is a very special day for me, and I always think of him.
I remember Cole Barsh. I taught Cole and his sister Tara when I was in Whitecourt. Cole was a regular, young, athletic high school student when I taught him. He signed up, joined the Army, ended up in Afghanistan, and ultimately ended up giving the ultimate sacrifice for his country.
My grandparents served in both the world wars and actually between the wars. My father is a part of law enforcement. He's a police officer. So ever since I was born, respecting the military and first responders has been in my lifestyle. To me, Remembrance Day is very important because it is a point where we remember those who have served and protected our rights and freedoms as Canadians and also for other nations.